Welcome, welcome, welcome to She Inspires Change, very first live interview. And today we have LaCoshia Anderson-Ned on our panel today. Welcome, LaCoshia Anderson. She Inspires Change is a women's empowerment group where we inspire, empower, and motivate women to remove the mask so they can walk into their greatness. We encourage them to share their story, their warrior story of transformation. And today, our best-selling author, LaCoshia Anderson-Ned, is going to be sharing her warrior story with us on today. A little bit about LaCoshia. LaCoshia is from Westlake, Louisiana. She is a best-selling author again, and she is a licensed cosmetologist. And soon she will be starting her very first hair care line. As an author, LaCoshia writes about her experience of coping with the loss of her child. She became an author because she felt that she can inspire someone who else was going through what she had already been through. Through the storm, she never gave up. She plans to continue writing books that will inspire people to never give up, never to give up on life, nor their dreams. And her favorite quote is, "Keep the faith and believe that you can get through the storm." Welcome, LaCoshia.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to just jump into this live. I just want to make sure that we are live on all platforms and we are recording. All righty. So we're going to just jump right in here. What inspired you to share your story, coping with the loss of your child, on this anthology project with KB Publishing?
I was inspired by just trying to figure out how to be able to talk to everybody and just letting everybody know what I've been through. And that was my way of coping with everything. Um,
Mhm.
it's hard whenever you trying to cope with it just without talking to anybody about it. So I felt like if I write about it, I will be able to get through and let everybody else understand exactly what I'm going through.
Mm. So tell me a little bit about the title. What about the title? What made you come up with that title, Coping with the Loss of a Child?
Coping with the loss of a child came from me losing my only daughter. It was very, very, very hard to cope with that. Um, because I not only had to deal with losing her, it started off being at the beginning whenever I found out she actually had trisomy 18. It's another word of Edward syndrome. Edward syndrome is another word for it. And Edward syndrome and trisomy 18 is pretty much um you have extra chromosomes. You have the extra chromosomes that everybody else do not have, and you have extra deformities that's inside, like your organs, your heart, your kidneys, and everything. And then you also have features that's on the outside that is a few deformities that you may see sometimes, like in my daughter's case, you can barely see her features because she looked like family. She didn't, have any deformity features as bad as others may have had. So nobody really knew her condition. But coping with the loss, that's what stuck with me. Coping with the loss of a child is where I got that from.
You mentioned trisomy 18 a little bit more, and you said it was the genetic features. So I'm going to share with the audience a little bit more about what trisomy 18 is. But when the doctors told you that when you found out that your daughter had trisomy 18, how did you take the news of that?
Well, it was very, very stressful that day because I actually went in to find out what I was having, but she was turned the other way. She was a little stubborn. So I was like, you know, let's see what she's having. And in that, we didn't find out, but the doctor was like, um, she has a lot of deformities going on and her organs. She only had one kidney, and we found that out that day. And he was just advising me to have an abortion. And me, being the person that I am, I don't believe in abortion. I'm not against it for anybody else, but that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I chose to do. So I decided to get with me and her father, and I made sure that we was making the right decision on what we was doing, and we decided to stay um with her and fight through it the whole way.
So that was a lot to take in. Um, Most of the times, doctors they don't tell you to go ahead and basically have an abortion for when you're just they don't normally tell you to do that. And so I'm glad that you were able to not do that and make your own firm decision based off your own experiences. So,
And
how did you go ahead? I'm sorry.
another reason why they were pretty much trying to talk me into that, because a lot of the with trisomy 18, a lot of times you don't live more than a day, or you may live a couple of months in your mom's womb, or um of those. And her risk was very high because of her condition, like her heart and everything, because she had congested heart failure also. So with a lot of her deformities, it was like um they really felt like she probably wasn't going to make it throughout my pregnancy or the day after. But she last 6 months, going on 7, would have been the following week. She would have been 7 months.
Well, she was a fighter. So you talk about she lived 7 months because the doctors didn't even think that you were going to be able to have a child. They thought that you were going to have a stillborn, or she was just going to pass on very shortly thereafter. Um, so you mentioned in the book that there was someone that you met that also had a child that had trisomy 18. How was that connection with the other parent?
It was very interesting. I had no idea that she was one of my neighbors. Um, and I was talking, I communicate through her, through a friend. I found out who she was, and I was like, oh, I know her. And so we decided to exchange telephone numbers and talk about it and discuss our concerns about our daughters. And um it was a lot of information that she had already had knew, because her daughter was 3 years old before she actually passed away. And we connected strongly, and we still talk today. We still have a
That's good.
communication today.
When you're going through like your child with a terminal illness, or just with just illness in general. And so sometimes we don't want to put a lot of burdens on our families and friends, but because they're the caregivers for us as well. But to have someone that was going through the same thing, something similar, and their child was going through the same thing, it was a good thing to have that connection with that person, because you could relate to them, and then you can literally just let your guard down and be like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is what I need to kind of help me get through. But I want to know a little bit about Anana, because she lived for a short time, but she had a little spunky personality. So tell us about that.
Oh yes. Anata was spoiled. She was spoiled. But she loved her brothers to pieces. Loved them, loved them, loved them. She loved her daddy, but it was nothing like mama. As soon as I leave the room, she's like, "Where's mom? That's not mom. Y'all could bring me back to my mom." And she just look and start whining, and it was it was interesting. She'll give them a look of love, and they'll just be like, "Okay." Just very
So
interesting.
that's really good to hear. Because kids, they have their own little personalities. We have a little grandson, and he has his own little personality, and he's only like 3 weeks, barely 3 weeks now, and that comes through. And so it was good to that you guys were able to have those memories of her spunky personality. So I want to move on and talk to you about grief and faith, because you had to go through grief and then you had your faith. And so this is about a faith talk as well. So let's talk about the faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Your faith is what sustains you while you were navigating everything. So tell us a little bit about your faith. Did you have a faith? Did you grow into having the faith because you were going through so much? Or you always had that foundation? Was your faith shaken at any point during this time frame? Did you want to just say, hey, I'm done? Like, God, like, help me. Like, what's going on? Like, why me? Because I can only imagine all the questions and the different things that was going through your mind.
Ooh, yes. It was very, very stressful. When I say I prayed every day, first of all, I started with the pregnancy praying because I was like, the devil is alive. They don't know what they're talking about. Because my previous pregnancies, they were like, "Oh, your child have Down syndrome. He's healthy. He's healthy." The next one, he's healthy. And I was like, are they doing the wrong test? So whenever I had her, I was like, I don't think that's what's wrong with her. But they did more blood work and they was like, yes, your blood work says this is what's wrong. So with that being said, I had a lot of doubt, like, and I was like, why God, why me? Why am I gonna, this my third pregnancy. And at the time I didn't know that I was having a girl, but it was like, ugh, not my third child. This is probably gonna be my only child that I'm gonna have. My last child, not my only child. This is probably gonna be my own third child and my last.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that it will be a girl at this point. And I'm just like all over the place and just like, oh my God, this can't be happening to me. And so I was like, you know what? God is not going to give us more than we can bear. So I just was like, okay, I'm okay. I'll be okay. I'll figure it out later, but I'll be okay. So after finding out she had trisomy 18, then I find out that I'm having a girl later. And then that's where it was like, okay, now it's my only daughter, still praying, but I'm stressing like sometimes you have those doubts in your head, like, do God even hear my prayers?
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? He hears me. He hears me. He's not going to answer until he's ready. So I said, I'm just going to pray. And then at first, I was praying. I was like, well, I prayed for a healthy baby. He didn't give me a healthy baby. And then I was like, I prayed for a girl. He gave me a girl. But I was just like still in like unbelief that she had this condition that nobody could do anything about. Nobody knew what it was called and why did it happen. And so I was just devastated. Like, but I still didn't feel like I should have an abortion because I was like, what if they're lying? What if they're not telling the truth? And then I would have to live with that guilt of pain inside of me, just thinking that I made the wrong decision. Um, and after that, just I just kept trying to be strong for the boys, most boys.
Mhm.
Hold it in, and eventually they still didn't know what trisomy 18 was whenever I had, well, before I had her and after I had her, they was like, oh, okay. But whenever she started going to the hospitals and doctor visits, back and forth to New Orleans, to Lafayette, then they started realizing, okay, sister's sick. She's really sick. And so by me being with her in the hospitals, I had to be strong because I was like, I can't be with the boys and I can't leave her by herself either. So it was a lot of fasting.
Yeah, I can only imagine doing that. That faith, your faith was tested, time and time and time again. Is during those trying times that we find out who's there for us, and then we also find out how strong we are too. Because nobody can tell you exactly how to deal with grief, let alone how to prepare for losing a child that you just had. And then all the questions that are unknown that you have, like, why me, God? Why is this? But sometimes God picks us to be that vessel to help somebody else in the long run. We may not know it, but you remember the song that was like, if you can use anything, use me, Lord. And then when you like, use me, Lord, and then when he's using you, you like, hold up, no, 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 not this time. We don't get to pick and choose which one it is that we are being used as that vessel. But at the end, it is something beautiful because there is always a message, in the mess. There's a message in it. So I want to
And
talk to you. Oh, go ahead.
another thing that helped me was I was also a special ed substitute teacher. So not knowing, I was sub in the fifth grade class. I was sub in the third grade class, kindergarten, and I was like, "Ooh, these kids are extra." As soon as I went to the special ed class, I was like, "Oh my God, they special, but they my baby special." And I was like, "Oh my God, keep me in the special ed class. They my babies." Um, you know how everybody have they classrooms, like some people can't handle the special ed crew, but the special ed crew is my favorite. Um, that's what helped me with my daughter. I was working in a special ed class for probably 10 years. And when I say I didn't want to leave them, but the hurricane whooped it up and made me. So I had no choice but to leave because if not, I probably would have still been working in the school system today. But it, the special ed class really, really, really prepared me for my daughter, and I didn't even realize it because having patience with the kids, loving the kids, showing them motor skills and showing them how to read and just being there for them, listening to them. Because I wasn't just in just a regular SPED, I was in the artistic classrooms, all the SPED departments. And I was just, I was happy. I was very, very happy. And I was upset when I had to leave, but COVID and the hurricanes uh
Yeah.
made me leave. Other than that, it was a quite interesting uh career. But like I said, that's what helped me really, really, really get prepared for Nada when she came. So I wasn't like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with her? I had
Yeah.
I already knew it was like a mother instinct. Like I know what to do. I was, in a special ed class, so I know exactly what to do. And everybody around me was like, "You good?" I was like, "Yeah, I know what to do with her. She might look at y'all crazy, but she love her mama."
So I want to talk to you about grief because grief is there's stages of grief, and grief is real, and it's something that you and your family experience. As we know, there's 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then there's the acceptance. We go through all of that. Um, and we talked a little bit about your faith walk. And I know your faith walk is what helped you go through the denial stages. But we want to let folks know that grief is real. But it's also there's no time limit on grief. But how were you able to navigate just talking to your children, because when they saw that you guys had to keep going back to the NIC unit, going to Lafayette, going back to the emergency room, all the different things that was happening, they knew something was going on. But at some point, you were going to have a real conversation with your children, and based off the information that you were getting from the doctors. How was that for you? How you and another father um, discuss the law losing potential losing Anana with the children, because us as adults we can comprehend loss a little bit different. um, Loss is different for everybody, but how did you navigate that news to the children that she was terminally ill?
We sat there and talked to the kids, but I really think that the kids didn't really understand at the time that she was really sick as she was. They didn't, I don't believe that they really realized how sick she was. They just thought she had like a disability. But because everybody doesn't know at a young age what congested heart failure is.
Mm-hmm.
um she was on a breathing machine and she was incubated a couple of times, and um she was very, very ill. But I don't think they actually knew how sick she was until the day we came home. And that was crazy too. Like the day that we actually came home, I think I was in denial. Like, okay, she's sick, but she's gonna last like probably a couple of days or whatever. I don't think she is sick as they say she is. But she was actually sick because we did our little faith walk, um, which was very, very nice. That faith walk, I tell you, it was awesome. I didn't think it was a faith walk. I called it a bye bye, see you later. And I was just the waving, 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 like, bye, y'all, see y'all later. Cause I was so exhausted. I was excited to go home. And I was like, we're about to spend time with Anata. I mean, it was more excitement than a bye bye. We're going home to, pass away. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm glad I had that spirit of excitement because it would have been a lot worse for me. I would have probably been more depressed. Um, but it didn't happen like that. We left, we went home in um the best um airplane, private airplane ride we could ever be in. I never experienced a private jet, but Anata made it happen.
First
She made
class.
it happen. Yes, she made it happen. And when I say they flew us all the way to our hometown, they flew us all the way to our hometown from New Orleans. And we were actually the first ones flying home to for her to pass away. She was the first child.
So
Yes,
you didn't even know that you were, because you were still in the denial stage at that point, that this was her honor walk. She was getting ready to be, she was being sent home to pass away. And you were just so excited that you were now finally out of the hospitals, and but finally being able to be with your daughter, but not realizing that this is, we are about to say goodbye to our daughter. And that's
exactly.
what grief does to you, because you're, you could be in that denial stage for a long time before you get to the acceptance phase. And then the bargaining phase. You were doing the bargaining when you were pregnant, you know, because you're like, and also the denial. I think the denial kind of ran through a lot because of your previous pregnancies too. So it's kind of
Exactly.
hard to receive the information that the doctors were saying, because you're like, they've spoken this on my children before, and they came out perfectly fine. And so, well, this is going to be the same thing. We've already been through this before, but then it ended up being a different thing. And so trying to navigate that. So, how are you coping today with the loss of your daughter? And then, did you seek help from a guidance from a pastor, friends, family? What did you do during the time frame when you were going through this, the grief?
Well, during her pregnancy, I mean, during my pregnancy, I had no, I didn't have a counselor until after I had her. Because I had a deep depression and I literally did not know what to do with myself. I was like, I'm trying to hold in for the kids. I'm trying to hold in for myself. And it's just like, um, everything was going through my head. And then not only that, 5 months after Nada passed away, her brother got killed in Houston. So her dad and I were like stressed out at the time and was like, oh my God, it's just too much going on. So just trying to navigate all of these feelings and trying to hold up the household for everybody. It was very, very, very stressful. Very, very stressful.
Hmm. So, how did you talk to the kids about grief? Because they went through stuff. How was that for them?
Okay, with them, I talked to them about it being okay, to cry and everything, talk to us about their feelings and everything. And then I also talked to the school counselors, um, so that if they had anything to talk about, they can go to the counselors at the schoolhouse. And we all um was um in counseling ourselves. We all are we all had seek counseling, and I'm still counseling today.
Yeah, I'm big on therapy because therapy is necessary. It is like self-care. You go to the chiropractor, you go to get your nails done, you go and get body massage, you get your hair done. Therapy should be part of all of that. So I'm a big proponent when it comes down to therapy because we need therapy for so many different things. You talk to your therapist to help you navigate life, but also those hard times when things are rough where you don't want to go to a friend and you want to go to someone that specializes in that specific thing. And grief is one of those things. When you lose someone, it isn't something that just happened overnight. There's a healing process. And one thing that I saw that you put in your book, in your chapter on page 39, you mentioned that, let's see, allow yourself some time to grieve. There's no time limit on grieving. But you also mentioned that for children, this was what was good for me that I really highlighted. Allow your children to be open about their feelings regarding losing their sibling. Don't try to make children get over the loss of their sibling. Grief takes time and is different for everyone involved. How did your kids cope? Because how did they cope each? How did they each cope with losing Anada?
It was it was interesting because some coped with acting out in school, and we had to get them straight. Because sometimes kids they don't understand the pain, so they like, oh, you don't understand, nobody understand me, and then they go to school and they're mad and upset and they're not talking about it, so they just go to school and then somebody, one of their friends that they think they're friends or whatever, is talking to them, and that day they was just mad, so they just got an attitude with their friend, and now the friend want to fight them, and now they just get in trouble instead of the kids actually talking. So as soon as the kids would get in trouble, we would me and their father would talk to them, and you know just try to see what's going on with them, and call the schoolhouse and see what happened, and find out why they were, getting into trouble or just being mean at home. Because sometimes they would be mean at home and you didn't know why, but you had to, talk to them and find out why. But it was the grief.
Yeah, they were going through the anger stage.
Mhm.
They were going through the anger stage. And so, um, and that's how they were able to kind of like release what was going on because they really couldn't understand all the different pieces of it. So, how are they doing today?
They're they're doing they're doing good in school. One already graduated, and the other one, he's going to the 11th grade. He's doing well, running track and everything. And the other two, they're still doing good in school also.
Good. So, your tips, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, that you're going to share a little bit more about that. But those tips were great tips for helping someone. So, we never know why the things that we go through, why we're going through those things. But those tips is also going to help somebody else that are going through the grieving stages because we know there's 5 stages, but just from a person, a family member or someone else that's just gone through, they get to see it firsthand in the book, Awaken Your Inner Warrior. Okay. So as we're almost wrapping up, I thought I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions on here, so I want to make sure that I don't leave anything out. But how do you honor her memory and bring awareness to Trisomy 18? But first, tell us how you honor her memory.
Okay, I honor her every March. The 18th is Trisomy 18 Day. So in March, I wear purple. As you can see, I'm wearing purple today because of her. But I wear purple. And I try to make a Trisomy 18 shirt for awareness. And sometimes I'll wear it like that whole week of Trisomy 18, just so I can let everybody know about Trisomy 18 um during that month. And then in April, August, she passed away in August. August is her memorial. Every year I do a balloon release, and in memory of her, we'll say a prayer, and we'll go to the either the civic center, or I go to her grave site, um, and I release balloons in honor of her. And now I'm about to start a hair care line in honor of her. It's gonna be it's disclosed right now. Her name, everything, it's in the mist, but I haven't publicly announced the name of it. But as soon as I release it, everybody um I have access to everything and understand why I came up with the name and everything else. And also, I want to come up with a nonprofit organization in her name also, because when um we was back and forth to New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans. When I say New Orleans, I felt like I knew how to drive to New Orleans from the back way to the left way, everywhere. Um, it was crazy because, yeah, it was crazy. But when I say they made sure we was okay, we had hotel accommodations, we had money, we had food, we had everything. So I felt like I want to give back to the community and be able to start something in honor of her name, so that everybody will be aware of Trisomy 18, what it is about, and also how I can help others like they helped me and my family, because it was stressful, because I was not working. I wasn't working at all. And her father was the only person that was able to hold it down, and he did a good job. But I didn't know what to do. And that was another reason why I was stressed, because it was like I went from working to having her and couldn't work at all, because somebody had to be home with the kids and some
Mm.
had to be at the hospital with her. So it was no two people having a job and, oh, somebody will be at the hospital. No, you have to be there for your kids. And so that's what I done. I was there for her. And so I feel like I should be able to give back to the community and show people how much love that they gave to me and my family to give to somebody else's family. I didn't have to worry about stressing about a funeral, because the love was there. Facebook family and friends was there. Family outside of the Facebook was there. So I'm just grateful everybody was able to help.
So this is going to be good when you. Um, this is a great way of honoring Anana. You're going to have this product line that's going to be honoring her for children, but also a nonprofit. Now you're able to give back to the community that once basically gave to you. And that's a huge thing, and people don't really understand about nonprofits. But for this particular nonprofit, I'm excited. I can't wait. I definitely want to be a part of it to help out, because this is a very, very important subject that we're talking about today. We're talking about the loss of a child, but also bringing awareness to trisomy 18. So you're going to also be doing awareness for trisomy 18 because, and it's also, as you said, it's called
Syndrome.
Edwards syndrome. So when you're looking for trisomy 18, you do better looking for Edwards syndrome because you'll find a little bit more information for that. And I think for any child that to live 6 months, 7 months, a year is a blessing, because I read the stats and I've read up on information. Um, is not expected to even survive birth, and she's a survivor. She was a warrior. You didn't even know that you were going to be dealing with a warrior.
No, when
So,
she was born, I heard a scream and she was like, ah, and I was like, yeah. I was so
mhm,
excited. I was like, oh my God, she's here. It was so
yeah. So, just a little fighter. She reminds me of her little cousin, because we just got him out of the NIC unit, and another warrior. And I call him fighter because I was like, he was fighting to get here and then fighting to stay here. So we just never know how God has his hand printed on us, and just navigating our lives in different ways. And this leads me to, I'm going to leave the information on here about trisomy 18. So if anybody wants to do some research, go to trisomy18.org, www, well, http trisomy18.org. They have a Facebook group. They also have a Instagram page. But let me go backwards, because you failed to mention that you have a Facebook page. Tell us
yeah.
about the Facebook page.
Oh, bad mom. Okay, I forgot. I don't know how it just went over. Um, yes, Anata has a Facebook page. It's called Princess Anata Joy Trisomy 18. That's her page. And on that page, I take pictures, and when I do a balloon release, I send everything to that page. And for a while, sometimes you'll probably see, sometimes I post stuff and then I was into a zone of depression again. So, that's our humor. So sometimes I may not post it because I was going through something and I'm like, oh my God, get it together. You got to get it together. So I start back praying again, and then I start posting again. Um, so it was kind of hard. So that's another reason why I ended up writing Coping with the Loss of a Child, because it's hard for you to navigate just posting pictures and just going doing her balloon releases and stuff like that. So I felt like if I write, it'll be soothing, relaxing, something that I can actually get out, not only
Mhm.
by talking about it, but I can release it.
That leads me into what's next, because one thing that I found to realize, when I write, I find it very therapeutic. And it just depends on, I let the pen flow unapologetically, because I just let the pen just go. And there's times if I am dealing with something, I journal a lot. I love writing. So I find it therapeutic for me. When you wrote your chapter, what was the feeling like when you released everything that you had been holding on for like so long? What was that feeling? when you finish writing the chapter? Because I know you had to go through the motions all over again. You relive the story, you relive everything. That's one thing about writing, and especially if you're writing about something that you've gone through, and you're going to talk about the highs and the lows. So once you finished it and you had everything in your hand, you're like, oh, I just birthed this baby. Tell us about that.
At first, I was writing and I felt like, am I bleeding on a paper or am I writing? So I
Yeah.
was like, let me get this together. Let me figure out what I'm going to write. And at first, by me writing for the very first time, it was like, hmm, am I putting it together the proper way? And something just said, you know what? Start from the beginning on when you had when you found out you was pregnant. And that's what I did to make it flow a lot easier because sister was stressed out. I was like, I want to tell somebody, but I can't get it out on paper. And I was just like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I was like, shut up, just put it on paper and just
Yeah.
and that's what I did. I just started writing, started from the beginning, and I'll just say, let me, put myself back that first day. And I didn't cry, um, like just getting it out. It's just like certain times when I get emotional is when when I would cry. But just writing it, it wasn't too stressful. It's just like maybe times of when it's time for her to like her birthday or something like that, or the balloon release is like what she would be like if she was still here, because today she would be 5 years old. So sometimes you get in your emotional stages, but for the most part I was excited. I'm very much excited and getting all of that, releasing it. And that's why I always like to do the balloon releases, because it's releasing all of that I have inside. If not, I'll probably be, bad off. But doing the balloon releases, doing I have
Yeah.
this is one of the bookmarks. I did a candle. I did a few things in the beginning, like her first balloon release, and I was giving them out to everybody for awareness. So that pretty much kind of helps out also, being there with people and talking to them about it. Like at my job, I was selling books and I have a bookmark that on one side it has her picture and is actually saying trisomy 18 and where you can find the information at. And I purposely did it because I wanted awareness in the book,
Yeah.
because it's coping with the loss, but it's also telling you that she passed away from trisomy 18 also.
Yeah. So writing the book, basically writing the chapter, took you on a wild goose chase of all kinds of emotions again. But tell me this feeling now. Awaken Your Inner Warrior book became a bestseller, number one best-selling book on Amazon, and you became a best-selling author. How is that for your first time writing?
Excited. Oh my God. Yeah, it was so exciting because I thought we were just gonna have a book and just sell the book and everything. But when I found out we was first time bestseller, I was like, oh my God, God is good. Didn't know how
Yeah.
to act. I was just like, thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I felt like the book was worth it, very much worth it. All the authors was awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it was very much. It was put together perfectly.
So, and you mentioned that, and one thing birthing this book, it was a journey, but every story in the book was so powerful in its own right. Um, and I still have people coming to me saying how they were impacted by your story because they may have lost a child in a different way, but they still suffered some type of loss. And so I wanted to let you know that that is still impacting people in so many different ways. And so we may not understand why we're going through it, but then on the end, we can see the rainbow at the end, how we're able to help someone, and then Anata continues to live on through the spirit, but also through the different things that you're still doing to help somebody else navigate what you went through. So I want to know what is in the future now for you that you have one book under your belt. Do you have a writing bug?
I haven't started writing yet, but it's almost two books that I have in mind. I had one book. It's about the full course of the trisomy 18. About Anata is more on her. Um, it's more about her. Um,
Yeah,
and also I was also in the middle of how I my journey now, and my journey now is a little interesting. And people
yeah.
was like, "What if she's gonna write about?" The world will never know.
Well, we'll know eventually once you put it on
Yeah.
paper and let the pen flow unapologetically. And so I've had preview to that. And that's the one thing that I love about being the publisher and the author of the book. I was able to see the different things that everyone was going through because you don't go through writing a book without going through some things. There's a lot of things that basically try to stop you from pushing forward. And I can't wait for you to finish or even start writing that book. At least start with the outline first. You do the outline, then you kind of go from there. And but that's going to be another warrior story because I just love stories, just in especially transformation stories, because there's so many things that people are going through on a daily basis, and we have to share our stories. It's not for us, it's for the other people. Your story is about you, but it's not really just for you. Because how would somebody else overcome based off of what you went through? You're not going through what you're going through just so you could just go through it by yourself. You know, you're going through these different things so somebody else can have an overcomer story. You know, we hear it in church all the time. We overcome by our testimonies. So we have to share our stories. It's not that you're telling your business, you're literally sharing something that you've gone through. And now that I've gone through this, I don't want nobody else to go through what I went through. And if I can give you the blueprint or the cliff notes to it, let me go ahead and give you those cliff notes and save you some heartache. But we also know that God still allows us to go through different things. And it's not for us to pick up their baggage or their stuff, but we still give them the tools. My brother used to say this all the time: don't go trying to pick up everybody's stuff. People still have to go through their own personal trials. And I get that, but we're still want to give you the blueprints because people heal by our testimonies and our stories. I will be on the soapbox for days when it comes down to talking about your story because that's what I do. And I didn't know that's where I was going to land, but I ended up landing in this area of helping people share their stories on live platforms. All right. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we end this interview?
Well, I do want to let everybody know that in order to get through the storm, you have to pray. You have to pray in order. Well, this is how I got through the storm. And I feel like if you pray, um, it will get you through the storm also. Talk to a counselor, get counseling, seek counseling. Um, Also communicate with your family, keep the faith. In order to get to the other side, to the rainbow, you have to understand, keep the faith, pray, seek counseling, and you'll get to the other side. You'll really get to the other side. The
And
rainbow is on the other side.
side of everything else. This, you just shared with us the tips that was on page 39 of Awaken Your Inner Warrior. The tips were the tips that help you and your family
Yes.
navigate those 5 stages of grief, and you're here today. So I would like to thank you for being my first interviewee on She Inspires Change, our transformational stories.
You're welcome.
Again, thank you for sharing your story. There's power when we share our story. We heal when we tell it, and others too. We also help others navigate waters that they've gone through, leaving a blueprint for them. Is there anything else, LaCoshia, that you would like to share before we log off?
No, just thank you for having me. I'm just happy to be here to share my faith talk.
All right. Until next time, thank you all for being here. We will be back with another story. You can follow LaCoshia. Where can they find you?
On my Facebook page at LaCoshia Anderson-Ned.
Okay. And do you have an email address if anyone wants to email you? How can we get them to order their book?
My
Order a
email
book from you.
my email address is LaCoshia Anderson. No, I'm sorry. It's LaCoshia Ned@gmail.com. It's LaCoshia Ned@gmail.com.
All right. They can find, if you want to get in touch with Kosha to place an order for a book, please order directly from LaCoshia because that's how she earns her profit from the book. Order directly from her. And do you have a pop up coming up real soon or anything?
I haven't started it, but on my Facebook page, I will have a post. So if you follow me on LaCoshia Anderson-Ned on Facebook, then it will be posted as soon as I have a pop-up available.
So they can find you at LaCoshia Anderson-Ned on Facebook. You can find her at LaCoshia Anderson-Ned on Facebook, and the same thing for LaCoshia Ned at Gmail if you want to email her. But you might as well just follow her on Facebook and then follow Princess Anata Joy Facebook page where she has her trisomy 18 awareness, and then she also honors Anata there. And so when you want to find out about this new product line as well as the nonprofit, you're already in the loop. You're already in the loop. So thank you again, Kosha. This has been a great interview. A story of transformation. That's what I'm calling it in your faith walk. Literally a faith walk.
Yes.
So until next time, we are about to end this and we are out of here.